Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm your host, CK. Today, we are discussing about the Gen Z. And Gen Z, if you don't know what is Gen Z, it is the generation next, basically, as we call them. And Gen Z is primarily born after 2000. And today, so in the year 2000, today they are comprising, especially if we talk about India, almost 40 to 50% of the population. So if you look at Indian population, it is almost 1.4 billion people. 40 to 50% is almost 500 million Gen Zs that exist in India. What is Gen Z? Gen Z is the youngsters. They are driving. So you can imagine by the numbers, sheer numbers, they are driving the future growth of India. And therefore, Gen Zs are very important. However, this generation is so different from what their parents were. So sometimes, parents may be finding it difficult to understand what these guys are all about. So my objective today in this live stream is to tell you 5 parameters which will help you understand where Gen Z is taking our country and what we should be doing and how understanding we should be in order to basically become their friend. And therefore, let's proceed towards understanding this. And the first point that I want to talk about is the career choices. Gen Z is actually, looking at the new ways of generating revenues for themselves. They are not typical, they are not stereotyped. They are basically looking at the opportunity as it comes. For example, when the parents were employed, then they had a very clearly well defined path. They study, and whatever you study, sit in the competitive exams, and once you clear those competitive exams, you will be XYZ, and that's when the life is set. So the whole emphasis was to study, go for competitive exams, and then once you get a job at the age of 20, 21, 22, or the most 25, you're set for life. There are no more surprises in life, and then life will continue as it is smoothly. That was a thing which was told to the parents. However, Gen Z, the people who were born after 2000, they are seeing a world in a totally different way, and therefore they are not shying away from taking different kinds of career pursuits. And there are no set rules. Unlike the previous generation, there are no set rules for Gen Z. They are going to define the career progression the way they see opportunities, and therefore they are not shying from getting into non-traditional fields. For example, online mechanism. It's a totally unproven, non-traditional environment. I mean, if you compare that with automobile industry is almost 150 years old, very well defined. So if somebody wants to become a automobile engineer, basically a mechanical engineer, the career path is very well defined. However, for Gen Z, even if you are a mechanical engineer, you will still like to get into a non-traditional field. For example, you want to get into online. You want to get into, becoming a chef. You want to basically become an explorer. These are the opportunities which were never heard of earlier. You want to you don't want to become a surveyor, you want to become something different, explorer, for example, right? You want to become problem solver. So these are the things which the Gen Zs are excelling. They are also not shying away from such opportunities, and therefore the career pursuits or career choices are so different from their parents, and therefore this mismatch is a cause of concern for parents. I think it is time for parents to understand, look at the landscape, look at what are the things which are visible today, unlike 30, 40 years back when nothing was visible. Today, the people, the Gen Z especially, who are now grown up, who are now voting, they are selecting the government also, their issues are so different. They are not talking about what will, how many jobs are available in reserve category, for example. They are least bothered because they know that they can create their own niche, they can find their own path, and therefore the career pursuits or the kind of activity Gen Z youngsters are doing is so different from their parents, and they find it's like a sort of mismatch. They find it difficult to match expectation versus reality. And I think that is one thing that parents need to understand, because there is no way such large chunk of society may be thinking wrong in the wrong direction, right? Everybody is thinking in that direction because they are seeing the opportunity also by themselves. All right, let's move to the next point. The eating habits are also different. Um, the previous generation was told to eat in the right quantity, right amount, and a type of food, etc. Today, the eating habits of Gen Z are different from their parents, simply because they would like to eat quick food. They don't want to spend too much time in eating. It's like preparation, lot of preparation. Then some time is spent in preparing the table. Then there are some table etiquettes. They are not understanding why such halabulu is there around the eating, right? They just want to get rid of eating. They want to have taste, and the whole focus is on the taste and what nutrient they are getting. Most of the Gen Zs are preferring the plant-based vegetarian diet. They are very, very conscious about saving the animals. They are very conscious about eating the right food. So they know, because they can actually go to the web and they can find out by themselves what are the benefits of eating non-vegetarian foods, vegetarian foods, and vegan. So by and large, I would not say that 100%, but by and large, most of the Gen Zs are preferring to choose a healthy lifestyle. Do not spend too much time in eating. Their eating habits are different from their parents, and that is again a cause of concern for the parents, and there is a cause of friction between the parent community and the Gen Zs, because the parents were given some sort of a background education that this has to be done in that manner. However, Gen Zs are now saying that, look, I know what is best for me, and therefore I will like to go ahead as long as the food is tasty and nutrient is basically filled with nutrient. I have no problem, and I will also experiment with the vegan food and the vegetarian food, because that is what is going to save the planet. So I think they are quite conscious about it, and therefore the trend in which is being created by Gen Z is quite significant, simply because they are huge in numbers, especially in a country like India. Let's move to the next point, which is third point. It's about the fandom, as I say, fandom culture. The Gen Zs are quite particular about who they like and who they dislike, and therefore, they have developed sort of a cult culture. This was always there. When we were young, there was a cult culture. I mean, we were all into rock bands and hip hop and stuff like that. So similarly, today's Gen Z is not different from their parents. When the parents were young, they had their own liking, disliking. Similarly, the Gen Z today have a fandom culture which is coming up, and this is positive. They are much, much better than their parents, because when the parents were growing up, when the parents were young, there was an opportunity for getting into some sort of a rave culture. Today, that rave culture is missing because of the digital age, and therefore their fandom mostly exists in the digital world. And the way the technology is moving ahead, and most of the driving factors are the Gen Z. Very soon we will have a immersive experience where you don't have to get addicted to anything. As long as if you like something, it will be available to you digitally. So there could be a immersive experience. There could be some sort of a AI based experience. That is where the world is moving. Driving force is the Gen Z, because they are substantial part of our society, and therefore their fandom culture is not so different from their parents. This is a less concern today between the generations, because parents understand that they were also like that when they were young. So I think this is not a major point where the friction is created between the previous generation and the current generation. So very similar fandom culture is being generated. They have their own favorites, they have their own movie stars, the type of music they like, so it's like the same thing. This is not a major concern, however it is there. And there is a generation gap. What the people like and what the Gen Z like is class apart, poles apart. All right, so let's move to the next point, which is about the digital, being digital. Now this is the first generation in India which completely grew in the digital environment, because these people were born after 2000, and right from their birth they are getting access to various devices, PCs, browsers, uh, laptops, mobile phones. uh, on these different devices there are different applications, all kinds of applications. Now you may think that okay, I will use applications which are useful to me, like 4 5 applications. However, Gen Z is not, because they live in that digital era, the first generation of Indians which are completely on in the digital bandwagon. They are riding into these digital bandwagon. Whether you are a rich person or a very mediocre person, everybody is hooked on to their mobile devices, and they are actually immersed themselves into the digital properties. Therefore their attitude is different from the attitude of the parent, and this is one of the biggest concern or a cause of friction between parents and the Gen Z's, because Gen Z's are very comfortable with leveraging social media. They understand how things work. uh, they actually are also uh, creating a lot of content also, and that is how they are reaching out to their friends. They are creating some special content so that they are also increasing their fame. They are not too much bothered about oh, I have to clear this national examinations, because that is not their major concern. Their major concerns are in the digital age, right? And our world is also moving towards a digital age. The Gen Zs are driving this forward. They would be very comfortable living in the digital arena, and they are very well versed with the functionality, uh, more well versed than the parent, and this could be the cause of concern or cause of friction. So I think the piece of advice that I would like to give to the parents is to understand that your children, your wards, are not going in the right direction, because that is a trend today. The digital arena is a trend today, and as long as we understand and accept that this is the way it is going, everybody is doing that, we will be cool about it. So I think this is something which is a fact, and we must realize this as a fact, and we must see this as it is coming towards us, that without the digital age, Gen Z will have nothing to do. So imagine, all these different applications, who will use them if the Gen Zs are not using? You and I will not use them. Gen Zs are the major driving force of creating traffic, and that's they are the biggest consumer of the digital age, and also the biggest creator, and therefore they like to live in that arena. All right, let's move to the next point, which is the last point. The Gen Zs are much more aware about the environmental issues than their parents. They know how to save water, they know how to save electricity, they know how much to consume, how much to give back. These are the environment issues, and because the previous generations did not know about it, that is why the planet Earth is at the crossroad as we see it today. And that is why all the countries are making their own targets. They are saying that, especially COP26, there were a lot of commitments given by various countries across the globe to cut down carbon emissions, right? Now, this is not a challenge for Gen Z, because they have actually grown. They took birth in that era, and they are much better in terms of thought process about saving the environment, much more aware about the social issues, because right from the childhood they are exposed to social media, and therefore they know exactly what works, what doesn't work, what are the policies, how we are going to save the environment, And I already mentioned that most of the Gen Zs are preferring to be either vegan or vegetarian. So they want to move away from the non-veg thing, and they don't want to basically wear the leather products. So all of these things are coming. They want to basically have fashion which is more trendy rather than outdated, and therefore this is something which is not a cause of friction between the generations, but this is something which is we must understand, and we must give credit to Gen Z rather than doubting their intellect. They are better than their parents of the same age, right? They are much more aware. They behave in a very mature manner. They are more environment friendly. Their habits are more social rather than restricting themselves and stuff like that. So they are much more social than of the same age their parents were. So I think this is a good quality of the Gen Z. So with this, I've finished the 5 factors which are some cause of concerns for the parents, but not serious matters as long as we understand. And there are certain qualities of Gen Z which are different from the previous generation. So friends, I like to know what you think, and if some Gen Zs are watching this video, please do share if I missed out any of your qualities, and which I like to hear from you. And once again, thank you so much for watching me live, and I will catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.